cool. 3 people. Good enough to start for me. So I'm going to start the top of the stream with something like fun to look at. Let's look at something really funny first. Let's do that. Okay, so now let's talk about Lindy West, who I had never heard of before a few days ago. I'm going to read what I wrote, and then we're going to look at some interviews, and we're going to talk a little bit about, I guess, polyamory. And the New York Times, I guess they published 2 articles about it within the same week, and they're always trying to push this on us. And I think it's just off the top, like a very unhealthy way to be. Anyway, I think these people are definitely opposed to the nuclear family, et cetera, et cetera. So let's look at a picture of her while we read this. I did not know who Lindy West was until a few days ago. She blew up on Twitter via a recent New York Times interview about her newest book, Adult Braces, Driving Myself Sane. And this is the book she wrote about her experience doing polyamory, which we'll find is still happening. And she seems to have convinced herself that this is, the way forward for their relationship. But he seems like kind of a scumbag to me. Anyway, she seems to be a poster person for what I'm calling millennial masochism, a victimhood mentality that is both self-loathing and self-loving, as well as narcissistic. Their victimhood gives them social currency and identity. According to her bio on Wikipedia, West worked as the film editor for Seattle's alternative weekly newspaper, The Stranger, from 2009 to 2012. In 2010, West's review of Sex and the City 2 went viral. She was a staff writer for Jezebel. She wrote about all the woke millennial slop, right? Racism, sexism, fat shaming. Her work has been published in the Daily Telegraph, GQ, the New York Daily Times, Vulture.com, Deadspin, Crack.com, MSNBC, and The Guardian. I watched some of her television show, Shrill, based on her book of the same title, published in 2016. The character is not shrill, though. She's a meek woman with low self-esteem because she's fat and feels worthless. It portrays a woman who is in a subpar relationship with a man who is a giant child. Shrill is a millennial woke. It's millennial woke cringe at its finest. Picture a lot of jokes about whiteness and how men suck. Imagine a scene at a strip club where these women, the strippers, claim to be empowered and that her character should call the shots because she's, quote, she has a big booty and big titties. She puts up with a lot of bad male behavior due to low self-esteem, but she also doesn't ever do anything about it because her identity revolves around being fat. Anyone in her life who tries to give her advice regarding her health is given an eye roll or a speech. Which brings me to her latest endeavor, a memoir about her polyamorous relationship, which she fought kicking and screaming against, but now is seemingly fine with. We will watch an interview with the trio and excerpts from her New York Times interview. Maybe we'll review the Twitter commentary first. I don't personally agree with polyamory, and I find it to be part of millennial masochism. You are to have no boundaries, but be cool and tough at the same time. You must constantly humiliate yourself and give yourself away. Her boss was Dan Savage, and I must also say that a lot of sexuality in the 21st century is influenced by gay male desires. I really think that he gave some horrible advice, has done a large disservice to straight women in attempting to give them any sexual advice. And I once listened to him tell a woman that it was okay to let her partner have sex with her while she was sleeping. At the time, I dubbed this just do it sex. It's time to have tough conversations about where we are in terms of the 21st century, a hall of mirrors and reversals, habits that were drilled into us, the millennials, by the mainstream are all inversions of what I would deem healthy behavior. I hope that Lindy West can one day learn to love herself and other millennials as well, not meaning she should love other millennials, but they need to love themselves too. Something tells me she won't. So let's actually just look at some of the Twitter commentary. I see 5 people are here. Please say hello if you are. Anyway, so let's start with, let me close that cute cat tab. Okay, so let's start with Jesse Singal. I mentioned this on the podcast. But just out of curiosity, I sent a screenshot of Lindy West's memoir that I found alarming to my favorite therapist, Claude AI. And here's the full response. So, a fundamental part of his ethos, and this is Lindy West talking about her husband, Aham. He believed that monogamy was, at its root, a system of ownership, okay, which is just, I think, a real weird way to look at love. But, maybe I'm old fashioned. I had to admit that perhaps I didn't feel it as keenly as a white person. Like, okay. So let's look at the AI response. This is a rich moment psychologically. A few observations. The racial framing is doing a lot of work here. The author essentially accepts Aham's framing that her discomfort with non-monogamy is a white failing, a lack of political consciousness, rather than a legitimate personal need. There is a subtle but significant form of emotional manipulation, whether intentional or not. It reframes her boundaries as privilege rather than preference, making them harder to defend. It's preemptive self-silencing. By admitting she doesn't feel it as keenly, she's already conceding the argument before stating her needs. A psychologist might gently ask, why do you need an ideological justification to want monogamy? Is I just want it not enough? The power dynamic is worth examining. He essentially said, I have a philosophy, you have a feeling, and philosophies outrank feelings in that framing. She's been put in the situation of either accepting his worldview or seeming less evolved. Right? This is emotional blackmail. The bigger pattern, combined with the rest of the passage, she's the most spectacular person. He loves her more than anyone, but this is a non-negotiable. There's a classic push and pull at work. Enormous validation paired with immovable condition. The combination is very hard to resist and worth examining carefully. The core question I'd want to sit with her on is, whose needs become the default serious ones in this relationship? So Claude AI offering some interesting insight here. What's going on, Flapjack Batter? Hello, Juniper's Tarot. And hello, TLK here. What do you guys think of polyamory? What do you guys think of this post? And I hope you're all doing well. So let's just continue to share some Twitter commentary. Almost every single non-monogamous relationship I hear about begins with women in tears, utterly destroyed and devastated until she comes around and forcibly accepts it, and then they all pretend how it's normal to feel that way. You just got to push through it It's gross. So obviously I agree with this comment. Here's another one. One thing I've noticed about open relationships is that they seemingly almost always consist of one person who wants it and another person who detests it, but plays along so as not to lose the other person. It's an intense form of selfishness that you will never convince me is healthy. Again, I agree. Um, there's one that I wanted to share here. This is also kind of sums it up for me. There is a certain kind of person whose entire career and life philosophy is based on something egregiously wrong that they're not willing to fix about themselves. Their entire life becomes cope, as they're in far too deep to check their priors and the very false premises upon which they've built their foundation. I don't mean to target this woman specifically. A lot of people are like this, and I'd say that, they are suffering with millennial masochism, right? But they'd also suffer a lot less if they'd allow themselves a bit of humility and introspection instead of trying to force reality to bend to the will of their desired outcome. I do, however, feel somewhat bad for Lindy West. She seems like a people pleaser, a very kind of like meek woman. And it's ironic that her show was named Shrill because she isn't shrill whatsoever, or at least the character in it. I guess she is in her writing. I've not read any of it. I didn't have time for that. I just kind of wanted to talk about her recent interview and polyamory. Um, Polyamory is selfish and terrible for children's development, would have to agree. Just like AGPs with their wives, it's another thing peeps want women to put up with. Yes. So speaking of like wanting to have basically gaslighting her, I also agree with this post because there is a part of me that feels a little sad for her. Um, she's ingested this woke culture that's told women to give away everything. For what I'm not sure. And she seems like she totally forced herself, into doing this. However, her own narcissism comes up in the New York Times interview when she finds out that the other woman has a crush on her. She becomes a little bit softer towards the idea. So this person says, so much talk about how Lindy West is undervaluing herself, which is true, to stay with a guy. So little talk about how the guy seems like a gaslighting asshole. Like both things can be true, right? Who talks down to her and makes her both cook and wash the dishes. What is he doing? Okay. So this says, and Aham tried so hard to get me to actually engage with this emotionally. He warned me that my tendency to avoid hard things was going to be a little bit poisonous in the relationship. You need to do the dishes right after you cook. Yeah, that's one of the parts of the interview that I guess he was like nitpicking her on maybe she's a little maybe she is lazy, and that's something that she talks about, how being fat is seen as something that's morally wrong because you're seen as lazy. But I think she's also looking for love in all the wrong places. Uh, I feel like if she had a little bit more self-respect, she wouldn't put up with this behavior. Um, but I think that's part of the millennial masochism that I'm kind of discussing. Uh, let's see. What are you guys saying here? You listened to the audiobook? Which one was it? She's written several books. I think all of them are just memoirs, which I also find very narcissistic. um, Polyamory, swinging, and things like that have always felt wrong and like a bad idea, both at first thought and when thinking it through. I think so too. Um, Ew, lady, it's okay if you are the object of desire. This guy has such obvious red flags. True. Um, Yeah, I don't know who that person. I don't know who any of the people I was like looking at. I was just finding things about her and bookmarking them. Totally. And it's part of this millennial masochism, which there are a lot of facets of. You can talk about how tattoos, for example, were really pushed very hard as like something cool that you want, facial piercings. I'm talking about maybe the early 2000s, right? The sort of masochistic culture that millennials were in. Anyway, so this is one of her books, and that's what her television show is based on. But let's go ahead and take a look at parts of this interview. I don't know if we'll watch the whole thing, but let's watch some of this together.
To each other. Lindy and I have been married for...
This is a really strange podcast where they also slowly undress throughout it. I don't really know. I guess it's the shtick of this podcast. It's a little weird, the gimmick. But here we go.
It'll be 7 years in July, and we've been together for 11 years next month. Basically kind of like grown up together, raised kids together. And Roy and I have been together a couple of years.
And the three of us have been together since last summer. We're three sweeties.
There is absolutely a friendship and a relationship amongst all of us. It just continues to grow and deepen and has become even more layered and complex, but for me, all good ways, since the three of us actually have come to know each other.
Yeah, so throughout the podcast here, they're slowly going to take off some clothes where at the end they'll be in their underwear. I don't think we'll watch the whole thing, but I think it'll give you a sense while we watch sort of the body language, how this woman really feels about this situation. I just really think she has no self-worth at all. And I don't know if that's because she's fat or if it's because she's fat and she won't do anything about it. I think it's, an unhealthy lifestyle. And I think there are things you can do. And I know actually the weirdest part about her victimhood mentality for me is also, I know plenty of fat people that are actually happy. They're not victims. And they're together. Oftentimes you see fat people with other fat people. They found love and they didn't have to compromise, I guess. It's just, she's monetarily gained off of the victimhood too. So is fat positivity part of the QWERTY LGBT whatever movement? I don't know. Probably. They're way too old for this. She's 43. She's like my exact same age. So I also find that kind of interesting. And the other interesting part about her life, she had super like supportive parents other than her mother trying to give her advice about dieting, which made her feel terrible. And it's like, there's also a part of you that's like, maybe just take some self-responsibility, grow some thicker skin, look at the darkness, have some self-reflection. But she seems to have lived a very charmed life is something else I want to point out. Like she had, to me, what seems like a really cool job at The Stranger, working for crappy ass Dan Savage. And, it's like, other than the fat stuff and like men being mean to her, which I refuse to believe that there aren't men out there that wouldn't be nice to her. Like there are dudes that like women that look like this, I think because it's part of her identity and she's gained monetarily, she can't let it go. I don't know. It's something very interesting to me. So many words to describe what should be simple. None of these people will be happily together in 10 years. I guess we'll check back 10 years from now. Not great anyway. I know like a lot of big ladies that seem perfectly happy in their skin. Yeah, when are us fatties going to get a letter I mean, I'm sorry if anyone in my audience struggles with weight, like this is not to say that like it's necessarily a choice. Her boss in the television show that sort of depicts Dan Savage tells her that. You know, he was born gay, but being fat is a choice. And that's like a terribly mean thing to say. And I think it might be true that people who aren't fat have different experiences in life and that people should be kind to each other regardless of how they look. I agree, Terry. I agree. Totally true. A lot of women struggle with weight, you know? And I don't think you should be ashamed, but I also think if you've made your entire identity this victim of whatever identity it is, right? That you're also going to weaponize that identity, and she's used it again to make money, and it just seems interesting. It's just I don't know. I'm not here to make moral value judgments against fat people. But I think it's good to be healthy and I see wonderful things all the time. Like I'm kind of like addicted to transformation videos where people do lose a lot of weight after exercising. I've seen a lot of really awesome transformation videos. Like, I don't know. Yeah, it's like a power of will thing, I guess. I think and I struggle with weight too. And anytime I get sort of like to the point where I feel kind of like, oh, you know, this is not comfortable, I start doing something about it. And it's a lot of willpower, and it takes a lot of willpower to want to change your life for the better.
Can you talk about assumptions that people make about you based on your relationship?
I feel like people, like especially cis straight men, feel like I'm like getting away with something.
Oswald says she doesn't look as big. It's because she's gained weight. This is about 4 years ago. So yeah, she currently looks like, hold on. Her headshot that the New York Times used is the one I used in the thumbnail. She currently looks like this. Okay, going back to the video. I love the language, right? Cis, let's put the CCs on. Cis.
Your relationship.
I feel like people, like especially cis straight men, feel like I'm like getting away with something. I don't have
It's not a special, it's, first of all, cis is the, you know, as you know, here on Dystopian Deep Dives, it's nonsense language. We're not isotopes, okay? No one's cisgender. But I think anyone who has a healthy outlook on life, you know, I cannot defend polyamory in any way. Looks at you like, you know, you're a manipulative person. And that this woman, I mean, look at this body language right here. Like she's looking off into the distance. This woman's looking at her. He's looking somewhere else. He's constantly holding this woman's hand.
any allegiance to that kind of like masculine getting women. I'm not trying to get anything. I'm with these people. I just have like unlimited respect for the people that I love and I'm in a relationship with. At no point does it feel like I'm doing anything inappropriate. Like, but that perception is in the air. And I think it has a lot to do with how people are in any kind of relationship. You know, people tend to be exploitative of the people that they're with, and they tend to be in a relationship.
Well, that's a cell phone.
To be like,
you have to listen to people when they tell you who they are.
What can I get out of this relationship? Like, I want to make sure that any behaviors that I've internalized, anything like that, to just constantly check in with myself and not be the person I don't want to be.
People are going to assume that Aham's tired of me and needed like a younger, skinnier, more conventionally hot person. Like, yeah, Aham keeps me around because he loves me and I have a good personality, but like, yeah, you like upgrade. Before this really started popping off, I remember being so afraid of that perception that, you know, because I am a semi-public figure and people speculate about my personal life and people are really cruel to me online. And
what does that do to? Like, what?
Because I'm fat It's definitely like present.
Yeah, in the show, which I watched like the first season, I couldn't get enough because this is like something I don't know why this is so compelling to me, but I watched part of her show and it's interesting, you know, I kind of
Do to? Like what?
Because I'm fat.
right. She has a troll. That's what I wanted to say. She has a troll who she confronts in the first season in the show, and you know, the internet is also something. You know, there's that famous rapper's quote, like, "Just turn it off." Like, what do you mean you're cyberbullied? Turn the thing off. And yeah, I just and she does a lot of really irresponsible. She's very selfish, you know, I feel in the show. But I also this is before like it depicts her life before she was married to like some guy that's supposed to be sort of this combination of all these horrible dudes that she's dated.
It's definitely like present.
The more reductive assumptions around someone who is perceived as a third partner or the person who entered into an existing relationship is often that person isn't getting their full needs met, that they're like a bonus or an extra in the legitimate lives or relationship structure that is the marriage or is the primary relationship. We don't use that language. We don't say primary or secondary. We're all equals.
Right. I think he's really manipulative, this guy, you know, and the fact that he brought a race in to use his weird identity victim card, you know, like, you're racist if you don't want to be in an open relationship with me. Like, that's messed up beyond belief. That is emotional blackmail. This is not healthy.
So yeah, some of the stereotypes is that it's more superficial. It can't possibly be as deep or as valid, or how could there be enough to go around, enough time, enough attention, enough love? There were moments, you know.
I feel like that. I mean, honestly, I like to be independent. I like to have my own time. I just feel like I'd be spreading myself way too thin, you know? Like, I just feel it's just so unhealthy.
Over the course of time, where I sort of found myself creating problems in my head that weren't actually there. Like, oh, what if I am disposable in this scenario? Or what if I am not?
Oh, look at this body language. He's not even really making eye contact with anyone. You know, this is painful. This woman's kind of closed off, right? She looks like she's holding back some kind of level of disgust this entire time while pretending to be happy.
The material of long,
like, look at her face. Hold on.
Or what if,
like, right here, like, is this a woman that looks happy? Does she look happy? Yo, what's going on, D Myers? We're talking about polyamory today. The mental gymnastics. I know, it's wild. I like, maybe it's just me. Like, maybe I'm an old-fashioned fuddy-duddy, but like, or maybe I'm just a romantic, you know? And I'm a serial monogamous, you know, person. So maybe I just simply can't understand, but I feel like this dude's a scumbag.
I am not the material of long-term relationship, because I'd always rejected marriage. There is a lot of
millennial masochism. Reject marriage, reject things that, like, you know, you've been told are, you know, boring, you're prude, like, blah, blah, blah. You know, bear yourself, use your identity as a form of victimhood.
External pressure, expectation, and messaging that you have to constantly reject when it comes to these things. I have the greatest love in my life right now than I've ever had before, and it has never felt this good. You know, we're told this is too good to be true. but it's not. It actually is our truth.
It's
So
our
can you talk
truth.
about what
It's
was
our
happening in your relationship?
As I said, they're going to slowly remove their clothes. We're not going to, I don't think we're going to watch until the underwear part, but we'll switch over to the New York Times interview because I have notes for that one.
The time that you met Roy?
So Lindy and I have always been, in a non-monogamous relationship, but it's not something that either of
That's not true. They were together and then they broke up, and then he said that's what he wanted when they were trying to get back together.
us really exercised. I had gone through a divorce right before Lindy and I started dating. My previous marriage, there was a lot of jealousy. So I was already on a kick, a non-monogamy kick.
Like what does he mean by jealousy? Like the woman, was he like cheating? Like, what does he mean?
When we first started seeing each other, but I didn't know how to do it. All of our experience had been in very traditional relationship, formats. It turned into a way more monogamous structure than I think we had planned it to. I was, in a place talking to my therapist. I was really ready to move forward.
And I love these therapists that are like, yeah, this is totally healthy. Like, this is a great idea.
And really ready to explore something that wasn't just a traditional heterosexual monogamous relationship. And when Roy and I met, Roy knew exactly what was going on in my relationship with Lindy.
You can say
because she was also a fan of Lindy's, and in the New York Times interview, Lindy is like not with it until she finds out that this chick has a crush on her. Like, it's all such a weird dynamic because she's like a fairly public figure, I guess. Like, I've never heard of her before 3 days ago, but I guess she's, a fairly public figure. When you're in love, you don't want anyone else. Does she? Yes, I think she does. He's a musician, notoriously known for being broke. Musicians are. But she's well known. Her life is actually seems pretty good next to my nightmare life. Sometimes I'm like, what? And I don't even complain about it. Like, I don't play this victimhood card because I believe, again, if you want something and you want to go after something and you have your mind set on it, you can accomplish a lot in life. He's giving homosexual vibes. Yeah, the therapist wants them to keep coming back, so they're giving bad advice on purpose.
we were bad. We were doing bad. Like, I was severely depressed and really overwhelmed by my career. I was just in a really, really bad place, which made me not a good partner.
Which is weird. So she doesn't even allow herself to be happy. She had a television show made after. She has books published, like, she rode this wave of like woke millennial cringe all the way to the bank.
And the sort of concepts of non-monogamy or polyamory or whatever made sense to me. Like, I was like, I understand this, but it takes so much confidence to do, because you can't be codependent at all. Like, you have to fully be your own person and just like trust that you are valuable. And I really didn't have that.
I think you still are a miserable person.
Tom said something that I have to correct. Traditional monogamous relationships was what both of us were used to. I was not used to that. No man ever wanted to like be monogamous with me, or felt jealousy about me, or wanted to like cherish me and keep me as like a special.
That's so sad. That's so sad that you've put up with so much bullshit and you still haven't, walked away. Just walk away from all these. There's people out there. There's someone out there, like, for anyone. Like, this. That's why I have a hard time like really, really disliking her, because like, to me it's just kind of sad.
Jewel. I was like trash, So I didn't have that. I had like shitty fake relationships with like people who didn't want to be seen with me. So, after we fell into this sort of like monogamous pattern, the longer we were in that, the scarier the non-monogamy conversation became for me. By the time it was like 2018 and I was like making a television show based on my life, I was like, who the fuck am I? You're making creative decisions with like a team of people about what parts of your life are interesting and like what parts have to be cut and like which people.
If you were okay with this, why would you be sobbing?
Don't matter. And like, I'm sorry. It's like really, especially because I wasn't coming at it from.
And again, like I know plenty of men that like this kind of body. Like this is not a deal breaker to plenty of men. And plenty of men like this kind of woman. He clearly doesn't. I mean, like what? He really wants, apparently.
A super healthy place. Like I wasn't in therapy, and I clearly like was traumatized by my 20s. Like by the time we were making Shrill, I was like, I do not know how to talk to people. I was like on set in my little chair being like I don't know. The model is that men, cycle through women and upgrade to like the hottest possible wife. And the model is that I am not worthy of love. And I certainly had that proven to me over and over again by the way that I had been treated.
So it's not she, instead of making it like a reflection on like these crappy men that she seemed to find, it's this is where it is embarrassing. I agree. We're going to switch to the New York Times one in a second here.
And so all the empirical evidence was telling me that there's just no way that this man loves me, and because it's impossible. However, I have to say, even in the most turbulent parts, we weren't ever going to like split up or anything.
Yeah, so what was how did the what was that like finally happen?
We kind of had
the way that she found out, let me tell you, is because one of her fans saw him at a bar making out with this woman or some other woman. That's how she found out.
a kind of like don't ask, don't tell policy, around things
Right,
like
because so they broke up and then they got back together and they got married, and he was like, I want to be polyamorous. And she, in the New York Times interview, describes like kicking the can down the road and sort of like not saying yes but not saying no at the same time. But he went and did it anyway because he would have anyway.
that, which sounds so much better on paper than in real life, because one, it really fragments your life, which is really hard.
It creates distance. And if you're the person asking not to be told things, you don't know why that distance is there. And like, I was so resentful this whole time because I was like, why are you so far away from me? Like, I don't understand.
It operated in this way that was really difficult, and I didn't feel right to like not be able to be transparent about my life and what was going on. And it really came to a head. Roy lost her best friend, her best friend in the world. And I mean, that for me, that was
all for a man who can't find chapstick. All for, let me see if we can get a close up on his mouth.
Why are you so far away from me? Like, I don't understand.
it operated.
Look, all over this guy. Yuck.
In this way that was really difficult, and I didn't feel right to like not be able to be transparent about my life and what was going on. And it really came to a head. Roy lost her best friend, her best friend in the world. And
yes, so the story is that there's a lot more revealed in the New York Times article, which recently came out because it's to promote her book about her polyamorous relationship. And she says, I guess it was sort of an open door policy, but she really wasn't that into it. She really didn't like the idea. And she finds out that he was making out with this woman at the bar, and she decides, she's gonna let him go see her when her like dad was sick or something like that. And so he started going to see this other woman like once a month. And she started getting used to it. She started valuing her free time. So she decides to go on this road trip. And while she's on the road trip, he says, by the way, so-and-so has always had a crush on you, the other woman here. And she's like, oh. And then even in the interview, it's so cringe. She's like, well, that made me like her more. And her in the New York Times interview, like, giggle with each other, like, yeah, like, who doesn't like having, a crush, having someone say that they have a crush on you? Like, it's just so narcissistic. It's wild. It's so wild how self-hating and narcissistic this woman is at the same time.
And I mean, that for me, that was the moment that with Lindy, I was like, I'm just going to tell you, I know you don't want to know, but I'm just going to tell you because there's stuff going on and I need to be there. I need to be there for her. I need to be there for you. I need to have a sense of transparency in my life so that I can be the most supportive partner possible in a time where I'm really needed.
And every step that we got closer to sort of transparent non-monogamy, he became a better partner to me.
Transparent non-monogamy. What's really crazy about this is that it's framed as a progressive thing, but it's really just a guy trying to have a harem.
Our life together had gotten so much better and, kind of returned to this state of like its potential. And that's why like learning to do this has been the most healing thing, because I have to trust you, which means I have to trust that I'm lovable and valuable, and polyamory
which she doesn't. And then she's like, it's the perfect
is like the perfect antidote to codependency.
What? Okay. Right. All right. So we're going to move on to the New York Times interview, which is why I had the misfortune of hearing about this woman this week. And what strikes me again, I'll just say it again, like, she has a career that most people would die for. She actually makes money as a writer. She capitalized on this victimhood mentality, this sort of fat acceptance movement. Yeah, it's just wild. So, she's going to start talking about working for Dan Savage. And I said this at the top of the stream, but I think a lot of sexuality in this 21st century that's been popularized comes from gay male homosexuality. So let's listen to her talk about Dan Savage for a second.
Cope with it.
I've thought this too. Yeah.
Yeah. So my initial reaction was like, I was devastated. And because I worked at the Alt Weekly. Dan Savage was my boss. It felt like everyone was supposed to do it, or else you were like, you were like a prude and a pioneer woman.
Of course.
Right. So this is part of the millennial masochism, right? Like, open your entire self up, like, don't have any boundaries. You're a prude if you want to have a monogamous relationship.
And I was like, why do I have to do that just because all these cool
go against her own instincts, right? She never wanted this.
Kids think it's better.
Yeah.
Like, why can't I make my own choices? So our initial conversation was a lot of me crying and being like, I don't want anyone else.
Was it presented as sort of like, we can get back together if we are non-monogamous? Was it like a conditional thing? Okay.
Basically, I think so. But it wasn't him saying, I'm going to go out and date people. We're a couple who loves each other desperately, getting back together.
Do you?
So this was not a moment when either of us was like, oh, I want to go out and find someone else. We were ecstatic to be reuniting.
Okay.
So where we landed was, if we want to be together for the rest of our lives, who knows what's going to happen in 10 years, 20 years, who we're going to meet, how we're going to feel. And to lock in and say, our feelings are never going to change and we're never going to have any interest in anyone else outside of this partnership. It's just not realistic. Once it was reframed as something that we were going to deal with eventually. And I love to procrastinate.
That's interesting, though. You're
right. So she says, she's like, I'm not going to say yes. I'm not going to say no.
Kicking the can, basically, of this relationship. What definition, framework?
Which is so unfair to him because he really was telling me something that's important to him. And I always heard
it's so unfair to him, right? Her needs are not important. Kicking the can was so unfair. Like this is it's just wild.
it as an obstacle that I could like wear down and overcome, you know? Like I just need to be the best girlfriend so that he doesn't want this stupid thing anymore.
Huh.
And Aham tried so hard to get me to actually engage with this emotionally.
How did he try?
Oh, I just mean he warned me, I think, that my tendency to avoid hard things was toxic. And
he warned her. That's so sick. Like she's expressing a boundary that she doesn't want this. She's like sort of like pushing it off so she doesn't have to deal with it. He doesn't care about her or her needs as far as I'm concerned. All right, let's fast forward a little bit. Let's see. So she downplays her own doubts. And as you saw, the other woman is like the complete opposite. Let's fast forward to about 15 minutes in. Hold on here.
And of course, in ways that made me feel wildly insecure.
So how did you found out Aham, sat you down at one point and was like, I need to tell you more about who this person is?
Yeah, because her best friend died. And it was one of those best friendships that's like family. And she was his primary caregiver during his illness. And it was just, yeah. And she needed her support system there. And Aham was part of her support system. And Aham is a good person who cares about people really deeply.
Does he? Does he care about you? So that's, is he a good person? She also says she at some point didn't know who she was anymore, and she was in therapy for it. She was in this process of letting go. Again, she takes this road trip and she discovers that this woman, has a crush on her. And I guess she's like kind of bisexual. So that got her actually interested. And my note there was narcissism. She says that inside of her, there were two wolves. This is when they were meeting all three at the same time here. All three of them met at this first moment. That she felt that there were two wolves inside of her. One is terrified and the other is electrified. So I think she's insecure, but she also likes the attention. And then at the end, she says she's customized marriage into the thing that she wants. But to me, it sounds like this guy has, and also her millennial programming, have worked against her own interests in finding love and joy in life. Let's go through your comments a little bit here. Terry has to go. Okay, well, I appreciate you being here for as much time as you could be. Woke activists tend to be narcissistic. Right. So that's what I mentioned at the top of the stream when I read my little blurb about millennial masochism, which is a victimhood mentality that is both self-loathing and self-loving as well as narcissistic, because their victimhood gives them the social currency that they have in this sort of oppression Olympics that they've constructed. Based on their own victimhood, their own perceived victimhood. What else is going on here in the comments? Terry says, no, it's the perfect arrangement for codependency. You can't let go no matter how bad it is. PH Joy agrees. Yes, she was pressured into this. And then I guess so how she's depicted in this show, is like someone who's very meek and kind of is like a doormat. And I don't know that that's her in real life because I've never met this woman, but if it has any resemblance to who she really is, it means that she lets a lot of things go and she doesn't stick up for herself, which indicates that she doesn't, have self-worth. And yeah, she was pressured into doing this against her own instincts. And then we'll fast forward to the end of the interview where she says it's like customized. Her life or whatever. Let me see if I can just.
And I know that I also need a lot of love and validation and support, and it's just really just 3 people that live in a house instead of 2. And
so they all live together now.
All help with the dishes.
That sounds kind of nice.
Yes. So we're all 3 together still. And now it's 2026. And it really started like as soon as I got back from
wow
my road trip, and basically started on Aham's birthday. So we're into year 5.
Amazing. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Earlier on in at the beginning of our conversation, actually, when I asked you and Aham had just gotten married, and I was like, what future did you want? And you described that you were looking forward to a sort of classic marriage. How do you feel about that now?
I feel like I customized my life to something that is the thing that I want. And
was it the thing that you want or the thing that he wanted and you didn't want to lose him, so you decided to go along with it, just like that Twitter commenter said?
And swapped that in. I don't want to chase an ideal that someone else made up. That's what this feels like to me.
But that's crazy because that's the ideal that your husband made up, isn't it? To have this open polyamorous. Now that what is it? What do they call a throuple?
It feels like I customized it. I customized marriage to the specifications that are fun and fulfilling to me. So I don't really think about it anymore. And it just feels like things found their way to where we needed to be. And no, that's so passive. We worked really hard and created the life that we wanted.
Yeah. Okay. Let's see. What else are you guys saying here in the chat? You know how you feel. You've loved your husband for over 20 years and you thought it would never happen, but it did. That's beautiful. I love this. These people do not want to work and forgive in a relationship. Yeah, sounds about right. She does. She lives on denial for sure. I do almost feel sorry for her, but the fact that, okay, so just a little hint, or about me. If I were to write a book about my life, people would be like, this is a nightmare. And I still keep my head held high and I try my best every day and I try to look inward and try to improve things that I don't like about myself. And this woman had supportive parents. Her mother was a little naggy, but what mothers aren't, and if really the only problem you've had in life is being fat, I don't know, man. And you've monetized on it, right? You've monetized on your identity, your victimhood mentality. It's kind of wild, but that's millennial masochism for you. Let's see. Customization, the bane of creativity, right? She customized it. So why call it a marriage? Why bother getting married if you want to change the rules of marriage? I don't know, tax reasons. I think this guy is kind of using her also. You can customize by not being so strict on gender roles. Your life has been interesting to say the least, and it would make an entertaining comedic story. Yeah, my life has been pretty wild. And I think, someday I'll write about it. I say that a lot, but lots of crazy things. Yeah, definitely a tragic comedy. So I think I've said all I wanted to say. It's been about an hour. I think next month, if anyone in the audience is in England, I might go to the UK to see an art exhibit at the Warburg Institute. And if you are in the UK, in London specifically, although your public transit gives me the impression that you could all get to London pretty easily, they have this really weird looking art exhibit inspired by conspiracy. So hold on, let me show it to you guys. I posted it, but here it is. Conspiracies opens at the Warburg Institute, and it's going on from the 13th of February to May 2nd. So I might check it out. I might do something impulsive, buy a plane ticket and go to London for like 2 or 3 days. Anyway, guys, I hope you're having an awesome time doing whatever you're doing. I thank everybody who has tuned in and given me your thoughts on polyamory. I don't think it's a healthy outlook. I think monogamy is far healthier. And I think it, is ultimately destructive to everyone that's taking part of it. And it is a regressive thing because it's really just a guy who wants to build a harem often. Yes, thank you, Flapjack Batter. So yes, everyone like, share, subscribe. And I'm actually thinking about making another video on the Gorillas because they're coming out with a new project and they seem to be focusing on a holy mountain, which brought me back to like 5 years ago reading Mount Analog. And I re-listened to that Mount Analog episode I did. And I think it would be interesting to do a little video breakdown of the new Gorillas project and its occult elements. All right, everybody. Yes, Gorillas, the music group. So have a great day. I'll catch you on the flip side. Peace in the Middle East, y'all.